The Galactic Council Station floated above the ashes of Earth. It had been 200 years since the Alliance destroyed the planet. What was once blue and green was now gray and broken. From the glass walls of the council chamber, the members could still see the shattered remains below. Inside the chamber, High Chancellor Vorka stood tall. His long, dark robe touched the floor as he raised both arms. His pale skin seemed to glow under the soft white lights. Around him sat the other council leaders, hundreds of species, all sworn to the United Galactic Alliance. Vorka spoke in a deep, steady voice. Today marks 200 years of peace. 200 years since Earth fell. 200 years since we removed the threat of human rebellion. The chamber filled with applause. Some members nodded. Others clapped their hands, wings, or claws. To them, this was a day to remember their strength. Vorka continued. Humanity was given a choice. They refused to join us. They chose war, and they paid the price. The room grew silent again. Vorka turned to face the large screen behind him. A live view of Earth's ruins filled the display. He raised his hand slowly. Let this remind all worlds, he said, that the Alliance will do what is needed to protect peace. But just as Vorka finished his words, the screen flickered. The image of Earth disappeared. A black screen appeared. Static buzzed through the speakers. The council members looked around, confused. Vorka's eyes narrowed. Security report. Suddenly, a voice came through the static. A human voice. Clear and cold. We are the last of Earth. We are alive. And we remember. Gasps filled the chamber. Vorka stood frozen for a moment, his sharp teeth pressing together. The screen changed again. This time, a face appeared. Human. Strong jaw. Short black hair, eyes like steel. He wore dark armor with a symbol on his chest. The mark of Earth. It was Commander Riker Holt. His voice filled the chamber again. You thought you destroyed us. You thought we were gone. But you were wrong. Vorka slammed his hand on the control panel. Shut this down. Now. The security team worked fast, but the signal held strong. Riker leaned closer to the camera. His voice was calm, but heavy with anger. For 200 years, you celebrated our death. For 200 years, you lied to the galaxy. We let you believe you had won. He paused for breath. But now we return, and we are not here for peace. The screen cut to black. Silence crushed the chamber like a heavy weight. Vorka's hands shook with rage. Find them, he whispered, his voice like ice. Find them and crush them. Alarms started to ring across the station. Red lights flashed in every hall. Ships outside the station moved into attack position. But it was already too late. The humans were here, and this time they had come to strike first. Far beyond the station, in the dark edge of the galaxy, Riker Holt stood on the bridge of his ship. The Iron Resolve was built in secret over the years. It was not large, but it was fast. Its dark armor made it almost invisible in space. Around it, dozens of other ships floated in silence. They were part of the hidden Earth resistance fleet. Riker watched the Council's broadcast on the small screen in front of him. He listened to Vorka speak of peace, victory, and Earth's destruction. His jaw tightened with every word. When the time was right, Riker sent his message. He watched as his face filled the Council screen. He knew they were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. After the signal ended, Riker turned away from the screen. He faced his crew. They stood in a half-circle around him. There were men and women, old and young. Some were born on Titan. Others came from hidden colonies on Mars, Europa, and the Outer Belt. They all carried the same fire in their hearts. Lena Cross, Riker's second-in-command, stepped forward. She was tall, with short red hair and sharp green eyes. She crossed her arms. They'll be ready now, she said. Vorka won't waste time. He'll strike back hard. Riker nodded. Let him. He walked to the center of the room. A large table showed a map of the station and the surrounding fleet. Tiny red lights marked enemy ships. Blue lights marked their own. For years, they believed we were gone, Riker said, his voice steady. They celebrated while we suffered. They erased our history. They called us the enemy. He paused, looking around at his people. But today, we remind them who we are. We don't run. We don't hide. We fight. The crew stood silent, waiting for his next words. Riker pressed a button on the table. The map zoomed in on the station. This is our target. The council chamber. We break in. We force them to speak the truth in front of the whole galaxy. If they refuse, we shut them down. Lena frowned. Shut them down how? Riker looked her in the eye. His voice dropped lower. We take out the power core. If we must destroy the station to make them fall, we will. The room grew heavy with tension. Some crew members shifted uncomfortably. Others looked down at the floor. Lena took a step closer. And all the people on board? Innocents. Riker closed his fists. They watched us burn. They stayed silent. This is their council. Their war. Their crime. Lena shook her head. Not all of them chose this. Riker sighed. His voice softened just a little. I know. He looked again at the map. His finger hovered over the power core. But if we don't end them here, they will hunt us forever. We'll never have a home again. The crew stood quiet for a long moment. Then one by one they nodded. They knew the price. They had trained for this moment all their lives. Riker turned back to the window. The station was far ahead, glowing like a giant star. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. We move in at first light. Lena nodded and walked off to ready the teams. As Riker stood alone, he placed his hand on the glass. His reflection stared back at him. His heart felt heavy, but his mind stayed clear. He whispered to himself, For Earth, for all we lost. The iron resolve shifted its course. Engines hummed softly as the fleet followed close behind. They moved through the dark, like wolves in the night, heading toward their prey. The fleet moved like shadows in space. Silent, hidden, focused. Riker Holt stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, eyes locked on the giant station ahead. Its lights shimmered in the darkness. It looked peaceful from a distance, like a floating city in the stars. But Riker knew better. That station was a fortress. It was the heart of the Galactic Council. It was the symbol of Earth's fall. Riker raised his hand. Begin the attack. The fleet responded at once. Dozens of ships powered up their engines. Weapons armed. Shields rose. But there was no loud sound in space. Only movement. Swift and silent. Lena's voice broke the silence. Boarding team ready, Commander. Riker nodded. He walked to the small launch bay at the center of the ship. 10 soldiers stood waiting in full black armor. They carried pulse rifles and small explosives. Lena was with them, already geared up. Riker grabbed his helmet and faced them all. We get in. We plant the charges. We take control of the broadcast. No mistakes. They all nodded. Riker and Lena climbed into the drop ship with the others. The bay doors opened. The small craft shot out like a bullet, heading straight for the station. As they approached, Riker's voice came through the ship's comms. Jax, give us cover. Jax was the fleet's best pilot. His fighter darted ahead, firing at the station's outer guns. Explosions sparked on the hull. Alarm lights began to flash across the massive structure. The enemy was awake now. Defense ships rushed out from docking bays. The sky lit up with laser fire and missiles. Riker's fleet fought back hard. Small ships weaved through enemy lines, blasting turrets and engines. The station shook from the impact. Inside the drop ship, Lena watched the battle on the screen. They're putting up a fight. Riker stayed calm. Good. Let them focus on the fleet. We're going inside. The ship reached the station's lower level. A hidden hatch opened beneath them. Riker had studied the station's blueprints for years. He knew this path. It was old and forgotten, but still there. The ship docked. The team moved fast through narrow tunnels. Their boots hit the metal floor softly. Lights flickered as they passed. The station groaned under the weight of battle outside. They reached the power core chamber. A thick glass wall stood between them and the glowing blue energy field. If they destroyed this core, the whole station would lose power. It was their last card to play if the council refused to speak the truth. Riker turned to Lena. Plant the charges, but don't arm them yet. Lena nodded and got to work. Meanwhile, Riker activated his wrist device. He sent a signal to the Iron Resolve. Begin the broadcast. Back on the bridge, Jax opened the live channel. Across the galaxy, every screen lit up again with Riker's face. Inside the council chamber, Vorka stood frozen as the human face returned. The leaders gasped. Fear spread like wildfire. Riker's voice filled the chamber. "Vorka, this is your last chance." Vorka stepped forward, his voice sharp. "You have no power here, human." Riker leaned closer to the camera. "Tell the truth. Tell the galaxy what you did to Earth. Tell them why." Vorka's lips curled into a cold smile. "I did what I had to. You were chaos. A threat to peace." Riker's voice dropped, low and firm. "You killed 10 billion lives." Vorka laughed softly. "You killed yourselves. We only finished the job." Riker's fists clenched. He looked at Lena, who stood ready by the charges. Back on the screen, Vorka leaned closer to his own camera. "You choose war again, Riker Holt. But this time, I will crush you completely." The signal ended. Lena looked at Riker, waiting for his word. "Do we arm the charges?" Riker stood still for a moment, heart pounding. He knew the line they were about to cross. Once they armed the core, there was no turning back. He turned his head slightly and whispered to himself, "We warned them." He looked up at Lena and nodded. "Arm them." Lena pressed the button. The charges began to glow red. The countdown was not set yet, but they were armed and ready. Riker took a deep breath. The real battle had just begun. The station shook again. Another explosion rocked the walls. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Alarm sirens screamed louder now. The battle outside had grown worse. Riker Holt stood in front of the glowing power core. The charges were armed, but the countdown was not active. Yet, Lena cross-checked her scanner. Enemy forces were moving toward them fast. "They know we're here," she warned. Riker nodded. "Hold your ground. We finished this." The team formed a tight circle around the core. Weapons ready, eyes sharp. They had trained for this moment all their lives. None of them planned to run. Outside the station, the Resistance fleet struggled. Ships exploded one by one. The enemy had called for reinforcements. Larger warships arrived, pouring fire on Riker's fleet. On the Iron Resolve, Jax gritted his teeth. His ship dodged a missile by inches. "We can't hold much longer, Commander," he shouted through the comms. Riker heard the fear in Jax's voice. He knew time was running out. Back in the core chamber, Lena stepped closer. "We need to set the countdown now. We're out of time." Riker didn't answer right away. His mind raced. If they blew the core, they would kill everyone on the station. Soldiers, workers, civilians, maybe even children. The cost was too high. But if they didn't, the Council would keep hunting them. Humanity would stay in hiding forever. There would never be peace. His heart felt heavy. Lena placed a hand on his shoulder. "Say the word, Riker." Riker looked in her eyes. She wasn't just his second-in-command. She had been his closest friend since childhood. They had both lost everything when Earth burned. He lowered his voice. "Are we becoming like them?" Lena didn't answer at first. She looked down at the charges, then back at him. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I do know they'll never stop unless we end this here." Riker took a deep breath. "No countdown." "Not yet." Lena frowned. "Then what's the plan?" Riker turned to his team. "We fight our way to the council chamber. I'll face Vorka myself." Lena's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Riker nodded. "If I have to kill him with my own hands, I will." The team moved out, leaving the armed charges behind. They pushed through the station's lower halls, climbing toward the upper levels. Enemy soldiers blocked their way. A fierce firefight broke out. Blasts of blue and red light filled the narrow halls. Bodies fell on both sides. Riker led from the front, moving fast and sharp. His team followed without hesitation. They reached a blast door near the council wing. It was sealed shut. Lena pulled out a small device and placed it on the door. The timer ticked down. "Get ready," she shouted. The door blew open with a loud crack. Smoke filled the air. Riker and his team rushed inside. They were now only steps away from the council chamber. On the other side of the station, High Chancellor Vorka stood before his war commanders. He watched the battle reports on a large screen. "The humans are here," one officer said. "They've reached the inner halls." Vorka's jaw clenched. His cold eyes burned with anger. "Prepare the Omega cannon." The officer turned pale. "But that weapon could destroy the entire fleet, even part of the station." Vorka leaned in close. "Do it." The officer ran to carry out the command. Outside, the sky lit up again. A massive cannon on the station's edge began to charge. Its core glowed bright orange. The hum grew louder. It fired a blast so powerful, it tore through space like a burning spear. Several resistance ships exploded on impact. On the Iron Resolve, Jax watched helplessly as his friends died. His voice cracked on the comms. "Commander, we're losing everything." Riker heard every word. His fists tightened. There was no more time for doubt. He turned to his team. "We finished this. Now." The blast from the Omega cannon shook the entire station. The walls groaned under the pressure. Pipes burst. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Riker Holt knew the end was near, one way or another. He moved fast, leading his team through the final hallway. Smoke filled the air. The ground shook beneath their boots. The sound of gunfire echoed from behind, but Riker kept pushing forward. They had no time to waste. At the end of the hall stood the heavy doors of the council chamber. 2 guards blocked the entrance. Riker didn't slow down. He raised his rifle and fired. The guards dropped instantly. Lena ran to the control panel by the door. It's locked down tight. Riker placed a small explosive on the door. "Then we blow it open." The team took cover. The blast ripped through the air, bending the metal doors until they finally gave way. Smoke and dust poured into the chamber. Riker stepped through first. The room was just as he remembered from the old records. Tall white walls, rows of seats for the council members, and the great viewing window showing the dead remains of Earth. High Chancellor Vorka stood at the center, alone. The other council members had already fled. Vorka did not move. He watched Riker with cold, steady eyes. Riker walked toward him slowly, lowering his rifle. He didn't need it. Not for this. Vorka spread his arms wide. "So, the last human dares to face me in my own hall." Riker stopped a few steps away. His voice was low but sharp. "You know who I am?" Vorka nodded. "Riker Holt, son of the Titan survivors. Leader of the broken." Riker felt his jaw tighten. "We are not broken. We are what you tried to kill and failed." Vorka tilted his head. "You could have hidden forever. You chose to die today." Riker took another step closer. "We came to finish what you started." Lena and the others stood behind him, watching closely. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Vorka walked toward Riker, stopping just an arm's length away. "You're too late," Vorka whispered. "Your fleet is finished. Your people will burn. You've already lost." Riker's fists clenched at his sides. "You destroyed our home," Riker said, his voice shaking with anger. "You took our future. You called it peace." Vorka leaned in, his voice cold as ice. "You are chaos. You never deserved a place among us." For a long moment, Riker said nothing. Then, without warning, Riker grabbed Vorka by the collar and slammed him against the viewing window. The glass cracked slightly under the force. Vorka didn't fight back. He only smiled. "Do it," Vorka hissed. "Kill me. Make yourself the monster I already told him you are." Riker's heart pounded in his chest. His hands shook. He could end it here, right now, with one move. But then, something inside him stopped. He heard Lena's voice behind him. "Riker, don't." Riker froze. His grip loosened. His mind raced. Killing Vorka wouldn't bring back Earth. It wouldn't stop the lies. It would only prove Vorka right, that humans were nothing but killers. Riker let go of Vorka. The Chancellor slid to the floor, breathing hard but still smiling. Riker turned to Lena. "Give me a link to the fleet. Open the broadcast again." Lena worked fast. She linked Riker's wrist device to every ship, every station, every world still watching. Riker stepped forward. He faced the camera. His voice was steady. "This is Commander Riker Holt, last of Earth. Listen to me." He paused, looking straight into the camera. "The Council has lied to you all. They destroyed our planet. They killed billions to scare you into obedience. Today, they tried again to wipe us out." He took a breath. "But we are still here, and we are done hiding." He turned the camera toward Vorka, showing him broken and silent on the floor. "The truth is no longer theirs to control. The truth belongs to all of you." He ended the broadcast. Across the galaxy, people saw it all. On every world, in every city, the message spread like fire. Protests broke out. Riots filled the streets. The people turned on the council. Inside the chamber, Vorka let out a low growl. Riker looked down at him. "It's over." Vorka glared back, but said nothing. Riker turned to his team. "Let's go home." The broadcast echoed across the stars. From the rich cities of Andros Prime to the cold mining colonies on Vaxen, for every citizen of the United Galactic Alliance heard Riker Holt's words. The Council's great lie was exposed. Vorka's face, broken and powerless on the floor, played on every screen. Anger spread like wildfire. People flooded the streets. Banners were torn down. Statues of council leaders were pulled apart by angry crowds. For the first time in 200 years, the people turned against their rulers. The council's control was cracking. Inside the station, alarms still rang. Enemy soldiers ran past Riker's team without fighting. They had seen the broadcast. Some dropped their weapons. Some just ran for the escape pods. The station was falling apart, not from the Resistance's bombs, but from fear. Lena walked beside Riker, keeping her weapon ready. "We've started something bigger than we planned," she said softly. Riker kept walking toward the lower decks. His mind was racing, but his heart felt lighter. The bloodshed could stop here if they let it. They didn't have to blow the power core now. They had already won the truth. Jax's voice came through the comm. "Commander, the the enemy ships are pulling back. They're not fighting anymore." Riker stopped in the hallway. He closed his eyes for a moment. He let out a slow breath. "It's over," he whispered. The battle was over. The team returned to the power core chamber. The charges still glowed red, armed, but not counting down. Riker walked to them and pressed the shutdown button. The lights turned off. The danger was gone. Lena gave a small smile. "We didn't have to destroy it." Riker nodded. "We took their power without firing another shot." They moved back toward the docking bay. As they walked, they passed frightened workers and guards. None of them raised a weapon. None tried to stop them. The people had seen enough. The council had lost their fear. When they reached their drop ship, Riker stopped and looked back one last time. He saw the station's great window, still showing the dead remains of Earth. He lowered his head. "We didn't fail you," he whispered softly. The team boarded the ship and launched back toward the Iron Resolve. The rest of the fleet followed. The battle was truly over now. Days passed. Across the galaxy, the Council faced collapse. World after world rose up. Alliances broke. Control slipped through their fingers. Finally, after years of silence, the Council members sent a message to Riker and the Resistance. A surrender. They agreed to step down and hold trials for their crimes. The people of the galaxy demanded it, and the Council could no longer hide. In the great halls of the rebuilt Galactic Assembly, Riker stood before leaders from every world. Not as a prisoner, not as an enemy, but as a voice for humanity. Lena stood beside him. Jax and the others watched from the crowd. The new speaker of the assembly, a wise elder from the planet Thora, stood and raised her hand. "The people of Earth, the survivors of Titan, all who have lived in the shadows, you are no longer outcasts," she said. "You have your place among us again." The chamber filled with cheers. This time it felt real. Riker looked around at the faces. So many different species, so many different worlds, all watching him. He stepped forward and spoke. "We will not forget the past, but we will not live in its shadow. Humanity is ready to build again. We are ready to stand with the galaxy, not beneath it." The assembly nodded in agreement. It was done. Later, Riker stood on the observation deck of the Iron Resolve. Lena joined him, standing in silence. "What now?" she asked. Riker smiled faintly. "Now we go home." The ship turned slowly toward the stars, engines glowing softly. For the first time in 200 years, humanity had hope again. The Iron Resolve glided through space, leaving the ruined station behind. The stars stretched endlessly ahead. For the first time, Riker Holt felt the weight on his shoulders begin to lift. In the days that followed, the news of the Council's fall spread across every corner of the galaxy. The riots had ended. The people had taken control. The trials had begun. Former leaders were called to answer for their crimes. High Chancellor Vorka was one of the first to stand before the new Galactic Assembly. The people demanded justice. This time, no lie could save him. On the outer edge of the Sol system, Riker stood with Lena on the command deck. The rest of the crew worked silently around them. The ship had taken damage during the battle, but it still held strong. Like them, it had survived when no one believed it could. Ahead of them, the broken remains of Earth came into view again. It still looked the same. Silent, dark, empty. Lena stood beside Riker. "It looks smaller," she whispered. Riker nodded. "We were so sure it was everything, but it was only the beginning." They stood there for a long time, looking at what used to be their home. Memories of the old world filled Riker's mind. Clear skies, oceans, cities filled with life. All gone, but not forgotten. The bridge door opened behind them. Jax entered quietly. "Message from the Assembly," he reported. "They've granted us settlement rights on Titan and Mars. Full freedom, full support." Riker turned to him. "They're giving us a home?" Jax nodded. "They're giving us everything we fought for." Lena smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "It won't be Earth." Riker nodded again. "No, but it's ours." He looked back at the window one last time. "We start again." The crew began preparing the ship for the journey. Supplies were checked. Engines were warmed up. The Resistance fleet, once a small group of survivors, now stood as the first free human force in the galaxy. As the fleet moved away from the remains of Earth, Riker gathered his crew for one final message. Standing in front of them, he spoke simply. "We fought for the truth. We paid a price, but we did not lose. Earth may be gone, but we are not. Our future starts now, together." The crew raised their fists in silent agreement. The fleet turned toward Titan, their new home. Engines lit up, pushing them forward through the dark. Riker stood at the front of the bridge, watching the stars pass by. He knew the galaxy would never be simple. New dangers would come. New challenges would rise. But this time, humanity would not face them alone. For the first time in 200 years, humanity was free. And this time, they would build a future no one could take away.